It is Thursday, January the 20th, and 5:30, and we're ready to begin our board meeting. And we'll go ahead and start with roll call and begin with Larry.
Larry Jepson, board member.
Randall Bagley, board member.
Steve Norton, superintendent.
Roger Pulsifer, board member.
Kathy Christiansen, board member.
And Dale Hanson, business administrator.
Chris Corcoran is a board member absent. Jeff Nelson, board member, is coming, and Terry Rhodes, board member, is absent and excused. Those two. Okay, we'll go ahead and start with the pledge, and Larry will lead us with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our mission is to educate students for success in a changing world.
Hey, thank you. And we have no public input. So I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
I second it.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote.
Okay, all the votes are in or unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, thank you. All right, on our action agenda, we will first begin with the approval of the DLI guest teacher status and immigration sponsorship policy. I will take a motion to pass that. You can come up if you want. Yeah, I'm just rushing through
You were
in
kind of
case,
caught in limbo there.
Okay.
in case there's any questions.
I move that we approve the DLI guest teacher status and immigration sponsorship policy.
I second it.
Okay, any questions? All righty, we'll go ahead. Anything more you want to tell us?
I don't think so.
Okay, we will vote then.
Are you going to stay for the rest of the meeting, or are you going to leave? Probably
I
leave,
would
aren't
love
you?
to support you.
I'm going to talk to you.
Okay.
Okay, all the votes are in unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay. All right, we'll go with the request for the approval of the early literacy plan goals for the 2019-2020 school year. Anything you want to say before we make a motion?
I just wondered if you had any questions. I didn't really talk about the new goals. I talked about what we did last year, so I hope it was clear. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. I'll take a motion to approve the early literacy plan goals for the 2019-2020 school year.
I move that we approve the early literacy plan goals for the 2019-2020 school year.
I second.
Okay, does anyone have questions on the new goals? Hopefully we've all read them, so. Okay, we'll go ahead and vote then.
Let's see. Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, good. Thanks you, guys. All right, I will take a motion for the approval of the negotiation agreement with Administrators Association.
I make a motion we approve the negotiation agreement with the Administrators Association.
I second the motion.
Any questions or discussion?
We ought to call Hawaii and check with Kirk, who's over there for a month,
For
and
a
just
month?
come up with a whole bunch of questions
Oh,
and
there you go.
pull him off the beach. And
Okay, I guess we will go ahead and vote. What part of Hawaii is he going to?
He's on just Oahu now at this time, isn't he? They've got a home on the beach for a month.
Oh, how
And the
fun.
kids, if they have enough money to pay to get over, at least the older ones.
How fun for them.
Okay, all the votes are in unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, next I will take a motion to approve the negotiation agreement with the Cash Education Association.
I move that we approve the agreement with the Cash Education Association.
I
I
second
second
the
it.
motion.
Okay, any questions or discussion on that one?
Okay, all the votes are in unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay. I'll take a motion to approve the negotiation agreement with the Cash Education Support Professionals Association.
I move that we approve the negotiation agreement with the Cash Education Support Professionals Association.
I second.
Any questions or discussion?
Are we sure it's worded correctly?
I think that's right.
Oh,
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay. Hey, I just have a question, now that we voted on those and approved it. Have the negotiation committee ever presented the benefits, the value of the benefits package to the employees as they're negotiating? And would that be a good idea to do that? Because that's a lot of money.
They're part of the insurance committee, and so they see all that when the prices come in.
Oh.
They're all represented on that insurance committee, and they can see it.
Do you think that's presented to the teachers and to
I
the,
don't know if CPA presents it to them or not.
Well, they used to give us a
yeah.
printout with that, and it showed everything, but they haven't done that for several years.
how much is that? Do you know?
I don't-
10 or 11, is it more than that?
You talking the total amount for insurance?
For benefits, yeah, how much does each person,
1.5 million increase this year.
say that again,
1.5 million increase
to take care of that?
just this year.
Oh, wow. I just think that would be a good idea. Do you guys think that's not a big deal?
What is the
or-
average cost of an employer benefits for insurance, this net?
Well, everything except for health insurance is, if they're on retirement, it's 31.5% roughly above their salary. And then insurance would be anywhere from, well, families over 16,000 a year right now for family coverage. So on a $50,000 salary, benefits would probably be at least 20, I think it's over 50% right now. So it'd be about 25,000 or more for total
Well, I don't
benefits.
know if it's a good idea or a bad idea, but I just wondered about it, because that is a whole lot of money that's paid for the
Yeah.
teachers and for the support professionals.
Yeah, for the support professionals, insurance represents quite a bit more as a percentage of their compensation because their salaries aren't as equal to what teachers are making.
But there's a whole lot of them who do not get insurance now
Yeah.
too,
Yeah,
that had to,
I know, just a wonder.
Yeah.
I was just wondering about it.
Yeah.
Because I do kind of remember we used to get it printed out, how much was paid in benefits. And that's a lot. Okay, all right, moving on. Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the final legal budget for 2018-19 school year.
I make a motion, we approve the final legal budget for 2018-19 school year.
I second it.
Questions or discussion? Okay, we'll vote.
Okay, all the votes are in unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay. And then just a note before we make a motion, the item in our preliminary budget for 2019-20 concerning the $50,000 textbook fee has been fixed on the
Yeah.
printed copy,
Yeah.
correct? Okay. I will take a motion then for the approval of the preliminary budget for 2019-20 school year.
Just 1 minute, please, if I can.
I move that we approve the preliminary budget for the 2019-2020 school year.
I second.
Okay, any questions or discussion?
We also need to give an approval of the proposed property tax rate, I think. Is that not showing there in the motion?
It's not.
It was in the printout, or the
Yeah.
packet, though, when
When
I
it
read
came?
it today.
Is it on the report?
Oh, yeah, I updated that today, so it's,
it on the-
anyway, the property tax will be a .007733, is the rate that we would be proposing. And then we will have to go through a truth and taxation hearing on August 22nd, I believe it is.
So is that in the new plan that you
Uh-huh.
gave us?
Yeah, it's all in there. It should be here online with the
Okay.
book too,
Okay.
but, I'm trying to get this to accept the motion on the previous, motion here on the final legal budget, but it's not accepting it for some reason. So I was trying to figure out what's wrong.
Do we need to do it again?
Well, I have it down. It just says, please designate a final resolution, but, said the motion carries. Looks like it should go through. I don't know what's wrong here, but, let me just write this down in case there's a problem.
Mine's doing a little beeping thing up at the top where it usually shows that it's been approved or not. Like it's trying.
So you got. Okay, if it won't save it, I'll do, just go to the next one. Okay. So I don't know if you had any questions on next year's budget, or, okay. So let me go then, the motion again was by, yeah, in fact, the motion I have right now shows here to approve the preliminary budget for the 2019-20 school year and the proposed property tax rate of .007733. So if that can be the motion, that would be what we need.
Okay. Say that again?
So it's approve the preliminary budget for the 2019-20 school year and the proposed property tax rate of .007733. So that would be the motion.
Okay. I will take a motion to approve the preliminary budget for 2019-20 school year and a property tax increase of to 007733.
33. Yeah.
So moved.
I second it.
Okay, any questions?
I wonder why that doesn't show up on your screen.
I don't know.
I don't know. It shows up on mine.
Yeah.
Check on yours, did it?
There it is. Found it, huh?
On that one, it shows up too, the property tax.
Okay, all the votes are in unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and move to the reports agenda. First of all, the K through 12 TSSA plans. Thank you.
Computer, just a second. Oh, the projector didn't come.
So while the projector's warming up, let me just go over this with you. This is how we've distributed the funds, so you can see. So towards the bottom of the page, the state allocation is little over $2.7 million from the state. And then just below that is how we broke it down, the 25% coming out for salary and benefits. The schools agreed on supporting some ESL for $65,000. So the amount we were allocated to the schools is $2,142,925. That works out to $121.76 per student. Then you go up there to the top of the page, and then there's every school, the allocation that they will receive this FY20 year for 1920. The student count that we used in April when Dale did the preliminary FTE worksheet, this is how teachers were assigned based on these numbers and everything. So that's the number we're using for all the schools, is that same student count number, where we just take a snapshot in time, there it is, and now we divide it out based on that. So you can take a look at those allocations, and that's quite a bit of money, again, for every school. And you've had a chance to see the guidelines, how they can spend it, and what they cannot spend the money on. And we did submit the plan to the state about 2 weeks ago, and 2 days ago I received the acknowledgement back from the state our plan was approved, and these funds will be available then to any of our schools July 1. And they have to be, that goes from July 1 through June 30th on the expenditure of the funds, and we'll set the same limit of no more than 10% carryover on the funds. So we're approved, we're ready to go. The only thing that we need to finish up then is the official approval from the school board. And I'm going to have Tim really quick show you how the school goes through the process of filling out their plan. I'm going to have him show Green Canyon. All the secondary schools have submitted their plans, and Tim and one of the employees under Tim put together this application form. It seems to be working out very well on how they put their plan together. Just to remind the board, the approval for this plan stops at year level. It doesn't go any farther. That's it. Stays right here. All the state did was approve it and allocated the funds. So Tim, do you want to share a little bit with them?
So you can see all of you can see the folder right there right now, right? Okay. So this folder will look very similar. So I'm assuming what you guys are going to do is split up the schools much like you do trust lands. So I will give you rights or access to this folder. And so whatever schools that you have, you'll be able to come into this folder and just click on them and look through their plan. So for example, if one of you had Green Canyon, you just double click on that, and it's basically a Google sheet. And you can see their goals for Green Canyon. They have 3 goals, and there's a summary description for their goal here. So goal 1, 2, and 3. First one deals with ESL, second one deals with ELL, and the third one deals with PLCs and curriculum design for literacy for their freshman transition class.
Can you make it any bigger on this little screen?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We can't see the left side.
And the
Yeah.
left side is, yeah.
Is that better?
Now you're cooking.
Yep.
That's right.
Okay. All right, so those are the goals. And you can see their allocation at the top is $166,000, and they have allocated all of those funds. So Green Canyon has a 0 balance after they've allocated the money for these 3 goals. If you want budget by category summary for those, it's down here at the bottom. So you can see they're putting a fair amount in the teacher salary, contract services, travel, some of the other big categories here. And then, if you look along the bottom of the spreadsheet, you'll see goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, goal 4. So if you want to jump into goal 1 and see some more detail, you can do that. So here is their detail for their description. Here's their categories that they're looking at. Here's, well, Green Canyon's left out how they're going to measure success, so we probably have to go back and ask them to fill that out. But then here's their action plan or strategy. And then here's their detailed budget for just Goal 1. So as a board member, the way this works, the way you can do this if you would like, is you can click on any field, right-click with your mouse, and say you want to comment. So here would be a comment by Mike Lichty, and he could say, he could just ask them a question right there. And basically, they would need to come back and just answer your questions before their plan gets approved. However you want to do that, decide to do that. So that's probably something you ought to talk about as a board. So it's easy as a right click and a comment on any cell. You can do that any place. If you had a question out here, you could right click and comment as well on any of those aspects of their plan. And then they would get an email with those comments.
So on that one, they're hiring 1.5 teachers. That's where the teacher salary
Yes.
is.
Yep.
And below, they have to get the benefits section. They call Dale's office, and they have to enter in the benefits, Social Security, insurance.
Health insurance. Yep.
Tim, I wonder if you could modify that so that the dollars are all rounded to the whole dollar amount, because all of our budgeting's done in whole dollars, not in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We can do that.
That'd be helpful.
In the
if you could do
final analysis.
that. Yeah,
Just round up to the 10th or 110th?
or just round to the nearest dollar.
Okay.
Usually it's fine.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Any questions about their plans?
Who put this together? You?
Stacy Gom and me put this together, yeah, both of us. So
Nicely done.
we tried to, it's a poor man's solution to programming, so we did our best to lay it out. So
Yeah,
we wanted to make it simple for you guys to go through.
Yeah.
Can you give us written instructions on how to do this?
Uh-huh.
Can you give me written instructions on how to do this?
I'll personally coach you through it if you'd like.
Well, I do better if I have it written on paper and I
We
can
Yeah.
understand.
follow
Yeah.
along on
Yeah.
how to do it. And when do we need to do this?
Well, we'll take, the next time we take action is, are you doing a board meeting in July?
We are on the 11th, but it's a very short one, right before we have our cookout party. So do you want to do it then, or?
It's a matter of when we get board approval is when they can officially start spending.
And they probably want to because they get the money July 1st, right?
The money is available July 1st.
But most of their expenditures would not come immediately. But we could probably have it ready by 11th, couldn't we?
I think what
Plans
you,
are all on here, aren't they?
yeah, what you would need is to divide them up and
Yeah.
approve them.
And just,
Well, I think we'll just keep the same schools that we had for the School Lands Trust Fund, if that's okay with everybody. And then, would we have to have it done by the 11th?
You would just scan and see if there's any big things that you have questions on, and then we would ask for you to approve them then on the 11th of July.
Okay.
and if you have questions, then just get back with Tim.
Yeah, get back with me or Tim.
Tim.
Gary.
If it's elementary, get with Gary, if it's secondary, get with me.
If it's technical, you can give it to me.
So did most of the schools use most of the money? You're saying they at least can't keep more than 10%, but can we encourage?
100%, they need to show zero balance. Now, we see at the end of the year, can't have more than 10%.
But they, right now, they are making sure they have 100%. Okay.
So you'll send this to us so we can get into
Yeah,
it? Is that?
what you'll get is an email from me saying I've shared this folder, and then you'll be able to get in and see any of your schools. And again, once you open it, the only thing you have to remember is a right click to comment on anything. That's
But-
it.
Yeah, but there's more to get onto, right-click for any of these things that we want to see
Uh-huh.
in detail?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, not see in detail. You just need to know to click on the bottom to get to any of the 5 pages.
okay.
They all look exactly the same.
So either click right or click on the bottom.
Yep, or click a right click to comment on anything. And that should be as simple. You can't delete anything or add it or mess them up, because I haven't given you those rights. I've just given you comment rights. So
Okay.
you don't worry about clicking and messing something up, because you can't.
Okay. I'll probably be calling you.
He'll come and give you a
A special lesson.
training right at your home if you'd
Awesome.
like.
A
Yeah.
private lesson.
Well, we'll meet at Charlie's for ice cream or something.
There you go. That sounds good.
I do have new Chromebooks for all of you that I've ordered, and they're a little bigger screen, but they're here. I just don't have them ready for you, so.
Did the principals like this format and feel like it was easy to do?
Yeah, the feedback I've got, it's not hard at all for them to go in, and we limited how much they can say about each goal too pretty well. We told them not to go into too much, enough detail where it can be understood. But also that these plans can be flexible. They start the school year, they want to tweak something, they can be tweaked.
Do they have to come back to us to change it?
Yeah.
It's a major change.
Okay. Does that money go straight to the schools, or does it come here first?
Same way with trust funds. It comes to the district, and then it's really allocated to the schools, but they have.
Okay. Do any of you have any questions? How come none of you are stressing over doing this right, except for me?
We haven't tried it yet.
Okay. All right, I'll relax. Okay.
Gary told me about half the elementaries are done, all the secondaries are done.
Okay.
So they'll get them on there in time for you to have a chance to approve them on the 11th.
Okay.
Or they won't be approved. That's what all amounts to.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
we'll approve them the next time we get together. It's
That's a
not-
lot of money for each school.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, monthly financial report, Dale?
So the report would be in your packet if or online. Really, in going through that, things look excellent for this year. I really don't have a lot of changes or anything that have occurred since last month. But I think in about every category except for about two, we have where salaries and benefits are operating better than compared to this year's budget. Compared to last year, looking at that same point in time of what of the total expenditures for the year had been incurred at that, at that same. So at the end of May, for example, we're looking at how much of the total expenditures were spent as of last year to see a percentage, comparing that with this year's total expenditures against budget. And in every one of the cases except for two, which are very just minor out of the other way, but would show that the budget is positive, that it's operating well. Revenues are coming in much better than budgeted for investment earnings. Property taxes are about, I believe, 6 or 7% ahead of where they were last year at this same point, so they're coming in fine, should be able to meet our needs that way too. School lunch program, again, is operating well. I think looking at a cost per meal comparison of last year to this year, they're about 10 cents per meal better than they were a year ago when they compare what they actually earn per meal and what it's costing to produce that. So, and again, that's just a snapshot, it's not in time, which isn't really just showing true operational expense, but just a comparison to see that it is operating well. But so the budget itself, is in excellent shape, and I think we don't have any worries about finishing the year well. So we'll have 3 payrolls that'll go out here in another week, so I guess week and a half. So anyway, we'll spend a lot of money in the next little while. The only other thing you'll see in there that's quite different is on the debt service fund. I think this year we've spent about 98% of budget, and last year we were only at about, as I remember, about 23%. And that's just because we have our two debt payments we make, one on the 15th of December and one on the 15th of June. But we have to have the money there in place by December 1st and June 1st. And where that fell on a weekend this year, we had to actually transfer the funds on the 29th or the 30th, whatever, can't remember what that was. But so it actually fell back into May rather than being shown as an expenditure in June in comparison. But it'll all even out at the end of this month, so.
Okay. Any questions? All right, thank you. Okay, Larry.
Okay. I didn't receive any feedback, and so I am just going to move forward and recommend that we retire school community relations, changes and amendments to policies, board and staff relations, and authorized services, that we retire those four and move forward, and then that we refer to the committee and the appropriate people for revision and updating the superintendent's job description, the let's see, the one on board meetings, and then take a look at patron relationships and see if that, I'm thinking that could be put into the board meetings as well, because it's all about the public being able to speak in the meetings. So I think it could probably be combined. So we'll put those three back for work and updating.
Okay.
Tim and I haven't had an opportunity to speak, so could you tell him the names of the committee? I mean, I've got them written on my desk,
Okay.
but I didn't bring that here tonight,
Okay.
so.
I did take those policies as you had them written up, and I scanned them and put them here into Board Docs, so it's on your agenda right there if you want to look at it.
Okay. And
So board
the
members,
committee,
were you?
the committee, Terry, Kathy, and I will work as the point person along with Jenda. And then we talked about having you, Tim, and possibly Kurt as being permanent members, and then we would bring in Kurt would, yeah, the others would be brought in as needed. If we've got something legal, we can do that. If it's something secondary or elementary, we can bring in the appropriate people. But we'll plan to start having the first meeting in September. So we'll get things set up and start meeting in September.
Okay.
Is everybody in the district on board okay with this, doing that? The ones on the committee, you know?
Thus far, I think so.
Okay. All right, that sounds great. Thanks, Larry, appreciate it. That is a big job, but we'll just do it one bite at a time, and hopefully we'll get it done.
Yeah.
All right, great, thanks. And Terry did leave, notice that she agreed with what you had on all of them, and that she's ready to help with whatever you need help with.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Oh, the board goals. Okay, so, this is just a rough draft of the board goals. And so the first three are exactly the same. The Fourth one, I'm wondering if we need to divide it up into two and what we need to change on it. But if you haven't had a chance to read it, let me just read through it really fast. The Cache County Board of Education will create a policy committee to update or retire district policies and establish, that's it, one. And establish a student committee that will meet quarterly for input. After I got it written, it seemed like we needed to do two.
That's two things.
Yeah. So if we just stop number 4, at the Cache County Board of Education will create a policy committee to update or retire district policies. Do we need to say anything more? Or is that good?
I think
And-
that's good.
Okay, and then I'll just make the 5th one then, the Cache County Board of Education will establish a student committee that will meet quarterly for student input, or do we need to say more about that?
Oh, I thought we had decided that it wasn't gonna be just a regular group. It was just gonna be,
Oh,
didn't we decide that we would have different groups?
I think you talked of going to a different high
High
school each
school.
quarter.
We go to different high school.
okay.
That's what I told Mike anyway, and that's all.
Yeah.
We need to change it.
Yeah, we do.
I think that's what we were talking, that you'd go to a
So we
different high
would just
school.
quarterly or trimesterly, well, and make it 4 times a year, but summer would be difficult, although there are
Should we
groups,
just do
of-
it 3 times?
there are groups of
I
kids.
think three's
so-
enough.
So that we would go into a school and just meet with a group of kids that the school would provide. That could be either, we don't want it all just student council, we wanted to go in and just see who might be having their meeting, and then we could meet with them.
Okay.
So it was just establishing a relationship with students in the district, I think is a good way to say it. And that we would meet 3 to 4 times a year with different groups.
Should I put 3 or 4 times a year, or just leave it at 3?
Leave it at 3. then,
Okay.
yeah.
So, okay, I'll work that out
Okay,
and get it on
yeah.
for next time.
That's the way I understood it anyway.
Yeah.
You want to do it some different, that's fine.
No, I
All
think
right,
that's
Roger,
fine.
since you're over this, is there anything more you want to add?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay, and that will work for you? Okay. Okay, all righty. Okay, on the board member report, it has been so long since we went to the NSBA, I've almost forgotten what I learned while I was there. But there were a couple of things that I jotted down from several different, from the notes that I had. The first thing is that one of the workshops that I went to, kind of their main thing was that we need to teach children to love learning. And that used to be kind of a big mantra here in our district. I don't hear people saying that so much anymore, but I'm thinking, I hope we're doing that. I hope we're teaching students to love learning, so they'll always want to be lifelong learners. So I just thought I would bring that up. And then the second thing, when I went to the same workshop as Randall, Be Happy, and I happened to end up sitting in front of Dell and his school board from Rich County, and right next to the business administrator from Logan. I can't remember his. Jeff.
Yeah.
So we were just kind of chatting a little bit, and Dale made a really interesting comment. He said, you know, a few years ago when we were coming to these conventions, most of the emphasis was on assess and test. And he said, and now it seems like most of the emphasis is on mental illness and social issues, mental issues and social issues. And I thought, you know, that kind of is how it has all changed. And I'm really appreciative that our district is focusing on that too, because I think that's a big, it's a big deal right now. And then the third thing that, at one of the workshops, they had 7 hard skills that students will need in the future and 5 soft skills. And I don't get out into the classrooms very much, but I know that these used to be really a big deal. And since such emphasis has been put on the end-of-level testing, I'm hoping that we're still making a big deal about this. So I'll just tell you what they said. For the 7 hard skills that students will need in the future, first is they need to be curious and imaginative. Second, they need to be self-starters. Third, they need to be adaptable to change. Fourth, they need to be critical thinkers and problem solvers. Fifth, they need to be able to write and orally communicate. And since that was kind of my area where I taught so much, I'm wondering if we still do process writing with the kids and they're able to write in all genres. Do you know if that's happening in classrooms? Or if they're just writing towards the end of level test writing?
Well, the two things are happening there. One is, they're writing not to necessarily a genre, but to like an argumentative versus an opinion piece, versus an expository piece. So they're learning to write different in different aspects. And secondly, we're really encouraging that they write across the curriculum. So they're not just writing in their English classes, but they're writing in their social studies classes and science classes.
So is it all informational then, and they're not having any narrative
Oh,
or
no, there's
descriptive?
narrative,
Or
yeah. There's narrative in there. I probably didn't mention them all, but yes, they're doing the same thing. They're doing creative writing, they're doing
Okay,
informational tasks.
Yep.
okay. And then the other thing I wondered about with the oral communication, do they do public speaking in their classes as
Yes.
well?
Yep, there's a public speaking course in the 9th grade that they're all kind of exposed to an element, and then they can expand that if that's something they really like. Of course, they go into debate or other communication and speech classes if they so desire. There's quite a few of those all around the school.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better, because with their phones and all, they're not communicating orally as much as they used to, so I was hoping that we had something. Okay, and then the other three were, they needed to be able to collaborate and lead by influence, and be able to access and analyze information, and then technology was the other thing that they said they needed. For the soft skills, they said being able to make decisions was number one. Number two, being dependable and reliable. 3, adaptable and trainable. 4, being able to work in teams. And this was kind of interesting. The 5th one, they said customer focus, which I thought was kind of interesting too. And I don't know if we have that at all anywhere in our curriculum, but it's a skill that I've noticed some of the people who are in different retail businesses now are lacking a little bit. Yeah. Anyway, I just thought it was kind of.
Why don't you give us a copy of that, and
Okay.
we'll,
Check it out.
we'll print it up for,
Oh.
it's a good list.
It is a good list.
Yeah.
I always thought that the kids who had good character skills in school seemed to be able to succeed no matter what the situation was. And it wasn't always the one who was the smartest kid or got the highest score on the test that was the most successful after their education. So I think those were, they just kind of struck it all with me. Okay. On the board president report, just remember that our cookout is going to be right after our next meeting. And I'll just send out an email to everybody, says we've got 3 people, see who will help with assignments. And so far, is everybody in on it? Hamburgers and hot dogs, okay? Do you want brats instead of hot dogs, or both? What would be your preference?
I'm easy.
I mean, too.
Yeah.
You don't care?
The dogs have been really good, so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, superintendent?
Okay. Kathy's been asking about some talking points, and they certainly are going to come, but I wanted to make sure they were correct and you weren't just getting my filtered knowledge. So I got a call, I've been placed a call to Terry Shoemaker today, and he said that there's been a group of school board members putting together some talking points. He was going to try and send them to us tonight. I got a thing just as I left the office saying he wasn't going to be able to get it to us tonight, but it's within days. So I'll look at that and then I'll run them past what I had. But what I've been putting together is, I want you to become as knowledgeable as you can. And so, here's a packet of material. It's in the order that I'd like it to be, because it goes from the most important, I think, documents that will help you in this whole tax discussion. Send one down to Dale. Got a couple for you too, so you can look at them, because I printed enough for the whole office administration to have them. So we're not gonna go through page by page, so don't anybody panic, but I want you to look at the first page. Okay, the first page is an appropriation history, state education funds, and I want you to look, and starting in 1995 is the first fiscal year. Okay, there was a figure there of $1,123,510,466. Okay, going to higher ed in that first year in 95 was $519,000. Okay, I want you to go down to year 2019 and look at the figure, $3,576,000, and then go over to higher ed and realize that $814,920,920,000, yeah, has gone. So that's the 25-year history of what happened when they decided to let higher ed start taking money from public ed. Follow it all the way down. Dale added the numbers. I don't have the fingers to do that. But $7,846,962,500. That's the total over the 25 years that would have gone into public ed, okay? So you divide that by 25 years, public ed would have had $313,878,500. You know what the total appropriation for public ed was this year?
Like 1.6 billion.
Well, anyway, that certainly would have helped us out over the 25-year period. They're talking about now wanting to open up that silo and making it possible for people to get money out of there for other things. And I've been trying to educate you that other thing basically is building roads, okay? They started taking money at the same time out of sales tax, moving it over to the gasoline tax, transportation fund, and building roads. So what you have, your second folder there, is something that I just, in talking to Robert Smith, he's Alpine School District's financial guru, he and Dr. Bowles, who's now at BYU, put together this little paper, really good history of finance in Utah. But I want you to go down until you find one, and I don't know sure because I pulled mine out. It says getting by with less, okay? And it's the actual research report, not the highlights. You found it? It should have a cover, something like that. This one, Kathy.
Oh,
You've got the executive portion, okay?
gotcha, okay. got
So,
it.
go back to page 9 in that report. This is really, really good stuff. Now, you need to understand, Utah Foundation is the research arm of business and government and politics in the state of Utah. Funded by a lot of the big corporations, but it's also funded by some government money. We are actually members of this group, okay?
What's the group called again?
It's called the Utah Foundation, okay? They put these reports, they've been putting out reports since 1947. You can go to their website and look and see what they have. But I just wanted to share this one part with you. Go to the last paragraph on page, what did I tell you? 9. When Proposition 6 passed, the Utah Education Association's Director of Advocacy Programs and Political Action said, so this is UEA speaking, that the bottom line is we don't think it will result in less funding for public schools. We can change it and include higher ed and still do well for public schools. A vote against the amendment would not necessarily have ensured more funding for K-12 education because the income tax could have been reduced in future years if policymakers thought the fund contained more revenue than schools needed. So when I got here that year, that's when Darrell White put his little arm around me and said, it's going to be just fine. Well, that first page tells you that almost $8 billion, it wasn't fine, all right? And they want to dip in again, okay? And we've got to do everything we can. So if you just read through these reports in the order that I've given you, I think you will come out with a great understanding of just a simple process that didn't help us to let higher ed have money. And most of the things that they've done since then, like taking money and dedicating it from sales tax to roads so that nobody could have a discussion year by year, it just automatically went over there. It's all in here. And you'll understand and you'll be able to talk to anybody, including your legislators, as to what's happened and why are we in the predicament that we're in now, and why in heaven's name would we even talk about using education money to do anything. Because in essence, I don't care if they couch it in taking care of the poor and the needy. What it actually is you're just taking education money and building roads. I mean, that's essentially what it is. So if you want a good understanding of what the issue is, all of the information in here is research-based. It's not my opinion, it's actual research, and you can find all the things that I've tried to tell you over the months and years. It's all in here in their own reports. But they're going to play like they've never had any idea that it hurt public ed that much, and that it didn't hurt when they started dedicating some funds out of sales tax to take care of roads. And so the issue is going to be, are we going to have a sales tax? And you got a history of sales tax in here. Sales tax used to be fundamentally sound, and they have made so many exceptions, and they're all in here listed, that if they would just do away with some of the exemptions they have, they wouldn't even have to look at services. They could just get it all back on products. But they're also told in the reports that it's very advantageous to look at service, and they ought to go there. And you'll get a whole history of property tax. Property tax in this state, I know it's not a beloved tax, I understand that, but we don't tax ourselves at a level that's even respectable when you compare it to other states. So there's room in sales tax, there's room in property tax, and when you haven't funded public education where it needs to be funded, and when you just look at the premise that Rob said 89 cents out of every dollar they spend in Alpine today goes for salary and benefits. Across the state, it's at least 85% is used for salary and benefits. So you have to buy into the premise that it's okay not for teachers who essentially are not getting paid what they should. They are the ones who are being penalized for the fact that we don't tax ourselves enough in sales tax and gasoline tax to pay for the amount of transportation that we're doing in this state right now. So if you can live with that, your neighbors and your friends, your daughters, your wives are getting less pay than they actually should, and that's a fair way to build roads, then I guess you can do whatever you want. But I sure don't think it's a fair method. So you have all the information. I will get you a 1 or 2 page talking points. But if you really want to understand what's going on in the state right now with this tax, this, you've got all the documentation you need. So I hope you'll take some time to really read through it. It's not boring stuff. When you know your responsibility is to this district, you ought to know this stuff that's in here, because it's all germane to why we don't have enough money to treat our employees properly and to spend the kind of money that would give our kids the proper education they need. With that, I'll just rest my,
Thank you.
okay?
Had no idea when I made that request we would.
Well, I
Such a
decided you weren't gonna just get my opinion, you're gonna get the straight facts.
That's great.
So,
Yeah, that's great.
and I'll get it to the other board members.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Okay, does anyone have anything else that we need to talk about tonight? Okay, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you being here, and thanks to our district people. Appreciate all that you do for this district, superintendent. Appreciate your leadership.
You're welcome.
Since there is nothing else, we will go ahead and adjourn.
And thanks to all of you and all you do.